Hi everyone, welcome to Vab Fashion's YouTube channel. My name is Eunice. In this video, we're going to be learning how to make this beautiful maxi gown with yoke and gigot sleeve. And as you can see, it has pleats at the yoke area, and then we also have pleats running all the way from the top to the hem of the gown. That's at the center front. I hope this is something you would like to learn. Kindly stay tuned while we get right into the video. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please kindly hit on the subscribe button to subscribe and make sure to put on your notification bell so you get notified once I post a new video. Thank you. So these are the materials we'll be making use of for this project. Here I have 1.5 yard of this peach sample lace. And then I have my Ankara fabric. This is 6 yards of Ankara. We're not going to be using all of it. So now the first thing we're going to do is to fold our fabric to achieve the length. Ankara comes in 45 inches, you can see. So it will not be enough to give me the length for a long gown. So I'll have to turn it this way. I'll have to turn it horizontally this way to achieve the length of my client, which is 60 inches. So plus hemming allowance, that's 62 inches. So I'm going to get twice her length. We're going to fold it over and show us the next thing to do. So I folded my fabric and I have twice her length. You can see that this is the back and this is the front. I have 62 inches long. So at the back here, you notice that I have an extension here. This is where my center front is starting from. So you can see the back has an extension. This is for our zip allowance. I have a zip allowance here of 1.5 inches. And you see from here I have 1.5 inches. And then the length of the fabric I have here is 62.5 so that I can have my cotton allowance. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to draw my starting line. So take note that all my measurements will start from here, which is the center front. I'm not starting from the zip allowance, I'm starting from the center front. So the first thing to do now on this shoulder line, I'm going to mark 3 inches here. And then next I'll mark half of her shoulder measurement plus half inch. And half of her shoulder measurement is 8.5, so plus half inch, that's 9 inches. So at this point, I'm going to come down by 1 inch. And then I'll slant it to meet my 3 inches mark. So this is now our shoulder slant. So now the next thing we're going to do is to mark the chest line, which is also the armhole line. So from this slanted line, I'm going to come down by her armhole measurement. And her armhole measurement is 9.3. How did I come about 9.3? I divided her bust by 6 plus 1.5, and that gave me 9.3. So I'm going to mark on my 9.3 here. So now this is our chest line. So at this point where I have the 9.3, I'm going to enter our shoulder measurement plus half inch. So this is for me to have a straight line. So from the center front here, I'm going to mark 9 inches. And then I will connect it with a straight line to the shoulder tip here. So now I'll just square out this line, the chest line and the armhole line also. So next from the shoulder line here, I'm going to mark the waistline. Our waistline is 17 inches. Then I'll mark the hip line. The hip line is at 25 inches. Next is the full length. The full length is 60. So plus my hemming allowance of 2 inches. So that's the end of my fabric here. So I'm just going to straighten out my lines. So having done that, the next thing I'm going to do now, here on the chest line, I'm going to enter quarter of the bust measurement. So quarter of her bust measurement is 11.75. And then I'll go ahead and add 2.5 inches. Normally I use 2 inches, but in this case I'm using 2.5 inches. You really want this outfit to be free. So I'm going to use 2.5 inches. So here now on the waistline, I'm going to enter quarter of the waist measurement, and quarter of her waist measurement is 11 inches. So I'm also going to enter the same 2.5 inches. Quarter of her hip measurement is 12 inches, and then plus 2.5, that will give me 14.5. So what I have here on the hip line, I'm going to take it down. I'm going to enter it on the hem line. So I'm just going to use my straight ruler to connect the points. So now I've done that. So I'll come here to the armhole line, and then I'll get the midpoint of the armhole by placing my tape like this, and then I'll fold it into two. At this midpoint, I'll first go in by half of an inch. So this is for the back armhole. And then I'll connect it like this to the shoulder tip. And then I'll curve the armhole. I'll curve it to meet the bust measurement. This is quarter of the bust measurement, not to the sewing allowance. So now this is our back armhole. So still at this midpoint, I'm going to go in by 3/4 of an inch. So first for the back armhole, I went in by half inch. For the front armhole, I'm going in by 3/4 of an inch. I also connect it to the shoulder tip like this. And then I'll also go ahead and curve it to meet the bust measurement here. So this is the back armhole and this is the front armhole inside. So here I'll come to the neckline here. I'm going to mark a neck width of 3.5. Take note that my tape is starting from the center front. 3.5, and then a depth of 4 inches for the front neckline. So this is for the front neckline. So now for the back neckline, same depth of 3.5 inches, and then I'll come down by a neck depth of 1.5 inches. And then I'll also curve it out like this. So now for the back neckline, it will extend into the zip allowance. Take note that the front stopped at the center front. So for the back now, it will extend into the zip allowance. So can you see? So that's that. So now I'll come here to the shoulder line. I'll just go up by half inch, which is for joining the shoulders together. So now to eliminate zipper bulge. So here we have our zip allowance. You don't want your zipper to bulge at the back because our back is not straight. So here on the waistline here, I'm going to take away, remember I said my zip allowance is 1 inch and 1.5 inches, I beg your pardon. I'm going to be taking away 1 inch from that zip allowance. So I'm going to mark 1 inch. So that means I'm left with half inch. So by the time I use half inch to turn my lining, I'm left with nothing here. So I'm going to bring back that same 1 inch I removed from here. I'll bring it back to this side. So that is why I'm using a different color of chalk so that we can understand what I'm doing. So at this point, I'll bring back that 1 inch, which is now my zip allowance. You are trying to eliminate zipper bulge. This gown is free, so it is likely to bulge at the back because of the freedom it has. So that is why I'm removing the whole 1 inch and bringing it back to this side. If it were a fitted gown, you taking out half inch will be just fine. But for free gowns, one half inch does not do justice to it. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. So now this 1 inch, I'm going to slant it to the neckline like this. Can you see that? And then I'll slant it downwards. That's before the hip line. So here is our hip line. I'm going to just go up by 1 inch from the hip line and finish off the slant. So you can see, so this orange chalk is for the back. So this 1 inch I brought here, I'm just going to connect it like this. You see? And I'll also finish it up before the heat line. So now this orange mark now is for our back, while the yellow mark is for the front. So now we'll go ahead and cut out. So the back is of course bigger than the front. So we'll be cutting out the back first and then we'll go ahead and cut out the front. So we'll start from the shoulder slant here. So we're cutting on our ½ inch, which is for joining the front and back. And then here is our back neckline. And then I'll go ahead and take out the zipper bulge. So then you see, so once I get to this point, I'm just going to go ahead now and slash it open. Okay, having done that, then we'll come here to the side here. So first we're going to cut the back armhole. So can you see? So now I'll be cutting on this orange line. I won't be cutting on the yellow first. So this is for the back now. I'm just going ahead to mark the wrong side of my fabric. So now we have our front to deal with. So first I'm going to go ahead now and cut the front neckline. The front armhole. And then the 1 inch I added, that's for zipper, right? So we're cutting it out. So you can see now that our front shape is back to normal. For our yoke now, I'm going to come here. Remember that this is our ½ inch for joining our shoulders together. So I'll be taking my measurement from that after the ½ inch. So I'm going to measure 5.5 or 6 inches. I'm going to measure 6 inches from this point. And then I'm going to draw a straight line here to the center front. So can you see that? So this part, I'm going to be using this side as my yoke. So I'm just going to cut this out now. Then I'm going to place this fabric on my lace, on my sample lace, and I'm going to cut it with extra 1 inch. This, why am I cutting with 1 inch instead of cutting with ½ inch? This is because by the time I join the yoke together, I'll be joining it to this part. So I'm going to lose ½ inch here, and I'll also lose ½ inch here. So that's the essence of that extra 1 inch I'll be adding to this fabric. So we'll go ahead and cut it out. This is my yoke now. Can you see? So these are yoke. So now the next thing we're going to do now is to cut our sleeve from this sample lace, and then I'll show us how to cut those strips and the pleats that we're going to have in front. So to cut the sleeve now, I'm going to fold my fabric on bias. So can you see, this is my sleeve fabric. So I'm going to fold it on bias in a triangular shape like this. So here, and then I'll check where I can get the armhole measurement of my client. Remember I said our armhole measurement is 9.3. So here I can have my 9.3 plus sewing allowance. So you can see that. So I'm just going to mark this point like this. So from this line here, I'm going to go up by her cap's height. Her cap's height is 4 point something. So I'm going to just use 4. So I'll go up by her cap's height like this. And then I'll just curve it down like this. Can you see? Just look at the shape I have. So now with this, let's measure you see that I now have my sewing allowance plus the armhole measurement of my client. Can you see that I have about 12 inches here, which is enough? So next I'll go ahead and measure the length of the sleeve. So I'm making the length of this sleeve 22 inches plus hemming allowance. This is so that it can gather and give me that balloon effect. So I'm making it 22, and that's plus my hemming allowance. So from this point, you can see I'm placing my tape from the apex here. Can you see that? So we'll go ahead now and cut out the sleeve. So the sleeve is really simple. I've done a video on how to make this balloon sleeve. It's also called a giggle sleeve. So just in case you want to see a detailed video on how to achieve it, I'm going to be dropping the link in the description box so that you can check it out later. So now we have our sleeve. So I'm going to cut out the second one, and then I'll show us the next thing we'll do. So I've cut the second sleeve, and this is what I have. You can see they are both the same. So now the next thing we're going to do now is to fold the hem of the sleeve. I'm going to weave the hem first, and then I'll go ahead and press down 2 inches all round. That's to the other side. Can you see? So I'm going to fold it, then I'll stitch it down. So the space I have in between is going to be for my elastic. I'm going to insert elastic inside to achieve the gathered effect. So I'm going to do that for the both of them. So now the next thing we're going to do is the measurement of this part. Remember that we have a pleat in front of our gown, or we have pleats in front of the gown. So now I'm going to measure what I have here from this starting point and down to the hem of the gown. I have 55 inches. This is starting from that's away from the illusion on the neckline, so that's 55 inches. So this is what I did. I went ahead to cut my piece of fabric. This is what I have here. This piece of fabric is 7 inches wide, and then the length is 110, which is twice the 55 inches I have here. You can make this 3 times the measurement or 2.5 inches the measurement, but this is because this is what I can get here. So this is just twice the measurement here. So I'm going to be pleating it on the center front of this gown. So before pleating it, I'm going to go ahead and stitch this part. And you see, I'll place it right side facing right side like this, fold it into two this way, and then I'll stitch on 1/2 inch all the way down. So after doing that, I'll turn it out to the right side. So when I turn it out to the right side, I'll make sure that the place I stitch is at the back like this. That's I'll put it at the center so that it will not show at the side or in front. So that's what I'll do for this long strip that I'll be using to pleat on the center front. And then I also went ahead to cut out the fabric I'll be stitching on top of it. Remember at the beginning of the video, we saw the fabric on top of it, the Ankara fabric on it. And here the Ankara fabric I have is 1.5 inches on fold. So you can see now that it's opened is 3 inches and it is on fold. I'll also stitch it down on 1/2 inch all the way down to the hemline and turn it out. So when I turn it out, I'll be left with 1 inch. I'll also make sure that the part I stitched will be at the middle this way. Can you see that? So I'm going to do that for this. I also went ahead to cut the lace fabric I'll be pleating at the chest area, that's at the yoke area. And here I went ahead to take my measurement. Now measuring this part, I have 8.5. 8.5, remember my fabric is on fold, that's 17 inches in total. So I multiply 17 times 3. This is because the pleat on the neckline is going to be, that's on the chest area, is going to be fuller. So I multiplied by 3 and I have 51 inches. This 51 inches is what I'll be pleating on the chest area, that's at the yoke area here. So you can see that I have 51 inches. And the length of this fabric I have here, the length, that's what I just talked about, is the width of the fabric, which is 51 inches. So the length I have here is 6 inches, and I'm going to be placing it on fold. So when you place 6 inches on fold, you're going to be left with, you're going to have 3 inches. I'm going to stitch this open part on 1/2 inch. So having stitched it, I'm going to be left with 2.5. So this is the fabric I'll be pleating at the neckline. So I'm going to keep this aside now so that we can cut the bias we're going to use to do our facing, that's to turn the neckline. So I'm going to go ahead and measure the neckline, and here I have 8 inches. So remember that my fabric is on fold, so whatever is on fold you multiply by 2. So 8 times 2, that's 16. So I'm going to place my Ankara fabric on bias. This is because you want the bias to stretch. Your bias should stretch so that it can sew around the curve of the neckline. So that's why I folded my fabric this way. This piece of fabric, you can see that I didn't fold it straight. Okay, so you can see pulling it, it is stretchy even though it's Ankara. Once you place your Ankara fabric on bias, it will stretch out. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and measure the length. What I have here, well, what I got here is 16 inches. I'm going to make it about 20 inches. I can always cut out my excess. So I'm going ahead to mark a length of 1 inch, which is what I have here, and then a width of about 20 inches. Can you see? And this is what we have. Remember that my fabric is on fold. So I'm just going to just straighten out any part that is not well cut out. So after doing that, the next thing I'm going to do now is to fold this bias into two. Remember I cut 1 inch and this 1 inch of fold. So when I open it, I'm going to have 2 inches. Okay. So now I'm going to fold my fabric into two like this to meet at the midpoint, and then into two at the other side. So right now you can see that I haven't folded, I have 1 inch now at this point. So I'm going to place my steam iron and press it down. So you want to be very careful with this, because at the end of the day, all I want to have is just 1/2 inch. Can you see? So this is what I have. So now I'll go ahead and fold it into two, just like you can see me doing. So right now my bias is a 1/2 inch bias. So this is what I'm going to be using to turn the neckline of the yoke that's in front. So we are done with the cutting part. As you can see, I've also gone ahead to cut my lining, and I repeated the same thing for the back. I made my lining 2 inches shorter than the main fabric. Okay, this is the lace I'll be using to create my pleats at the center front. I've gone ahead to join it on the open side, and then I've also pressed it. So you can see that the seam line, I made sure to press it to the middle. That's, I centralize the seam line. This is to hide the seam line. The next thing I'm going to do now is to open up my front piece. So having opened up my front piece, this is the center front. You can see my crease line there. So next I'm going to measure the width of the lace we'll be pleating at the center front. So having measured it, this is what I have. I have 3.5. This is for me to be able to centralize this lace. You don't want it to tilt to one side. So having measured and I got 3.5, I'm going to fold my tape into two to get the midpoint of 3.5, or you divide 3.5 into 2 and you get the midpoint. And here I have 1.75, which is 1 3/4. So I'm going to mark 1 3/4 from the center front. This is to have a guide where I'm going to place my lace. So you can see that I'm marking it from the center front where I have the crease line. I'm marking 1 point, that's 1 3/4, which is 1.75, all the way down. So you can see I've marked it this side. So now the next thing I'm going to do is to place my lace. There is no need marking the other side since you have marked one side. Once one side is gauged, the other side will also be gauged, because we're going to be using this line I marked now for our, that's for to as a guide. Okay, I went ahead to notch the midpoint of my lace so that I can place correctly. So you can see that the side of the lace is touching the line, so automatically the other side too is going to be on the same 1.75, that's 1 3/4. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pin it at the starting point there. Okay, so now the next thing I'm going to do is to come down by 3 inches. Come down by 3 inches from the neck, that's from the starting point, and begin to create my pleats. So from these 3 inches, I'm going to go ahead and start pleating my fabric. And you can see I'm pleating downwards. Can you see what I'm doing? I'm not pleating upwards. This pleat is like a knife pleat, but I'm pleating it downwards. So I'm going to bring in my pressing iron and press it to keep it stable, and then I'll pin it down and repeat the same thing. I'll continue doing the same till I get to the hem, that's to the down part of the gown. So this is it. You can see I've pressed it down. Just going to use my safety pin to secure it so that it doesn't pull off, and then repeat the same thing on the other side. And then I'm going to repeat exactly what I have done here now. So just watch carefully what I'm doing. I'm leaving a space of 1.5 inches first, and then I'll create my next pleat. Remember I said that the fabric, you can multiply whatever length you get. Remember when we measured the center front all the way down to the hem, I got 55, and all I did was to multiply by 2 because that's what my fabric can give me. So if you have enough fabric, you can multiply by 3. This will give you fullness. It will make it really full around there. But for me, I just multiplied by 2 because that's what is left of my fabric. So you can see that I pinned the second one. I'm going to keep doing this till I get to the hem of the gown, and then I'll show us the next thing to do. Alright, I'm done creating my pleats, and the next thing now to do is to place my Ankara over the lace fabric. To do this, you need your hemming gum, and here I have 1-inch hemming gum. So I'm going ahead to fold my hemming gum into two, and then I notch the center of the hemming gum. This is to be able to centralize the hemming gum. I want to make sure that the notch on the hemming gum aligns with the notch also at the center of the fabric. Okay, so I'm going to place my hemming gum carefully over this lace fabric all the way down to the hem, just like you can see me doing. After doing that, I'm now going to place my lace, the Ankara fabric over it. Remember that the Ankara fabric is actually 1 inch in width. So you want to make sure that it sits very well and cover the hemming gum completely. So that is why I'm using a 1-inch hemming gum. If not, I would have reduced it if it was smaller than this. So now I also went ahead to notch my Ankara fabric, and I'm placing it directly over the hemming gum now. So you want to just make sure that you take your time and do this carefully. And then I'll bring in my iron and place it on it. So with steam iron, it helps the hemming gum to dissolve well. So if you do not have a steam iron, just sprinkle water on it and place your iron. It will also work well for you. So I'm going to keep pressing this till I get to the hem of the gown. After pressing, the next thing now to do is to stitch the Ankara fabric on both sides, very close to the tip. You want to do this carefully so that it's very neat. If you don't stitch this, when you wash everything, that's the Ankara fabric, will rip off. This is because this is not a permanent hemming gum. Okay, after doing that, now I'm going to place my yoke, placing it right side of the lace, facing right side of the Ankara. Then I'll stitch, and then I'll go ahead and use my lining to turn all the sides. Take note that I did everything I did directly on the Ankara fabric. I didn't join my lining yet. So after doing everything, I now went ahead to sew my lining and turn it inside out. So this is what the lining now looks like on the reverse side. So now the next thing to do now is to create the pleats that will be on the yoke area, that's which is closer to the neck right now. Okay, I'm going to place this pleat 1/2 inch above that's 1/2 inch above the joining line where my Ankara and lace joins together. You want to make sure that you push some part of the lace into the armhole. You don't want to just start exactly at the tip, so that it neatly goes into the armhole and relaxes well. And then I'm going to create inverted pleats here. And you see, I've created one pleat already, and I'm going ahead to secure it with my safety pin. So I'm going to repeat the same thing. So remember, I multiplied my measurement by 3. So this pleat is going to be fuller. So I'll create one. It's inverted pleats. Can see I've created one already, and I'm making sure that it's 1/2 inch above the Ankara fabric, and then I'll pleat the other side to meet it. So this is how I'm going to keep on pleating it till I get to the other side of the armhole. Okay, so this is what I have after creating my pleats, and it came out really beautiful. So now the next thing to do is to stitch this and then place the Ankara fabric over it like this, and see it will cover up the point where I pleated. So I'm just going to place it this way, just like this on top of it. Okay, so you also need hemming gum. In this case, I'm going to also use my hemming gum to hold it down just like I did for the center front. Then I'll go ahead and use the bias to turn the neckline, fix my sleeves, as you can see, and also fix the back zipper, and our gown is ready. So this is what our gown looks like. Everything came out so beautiful. This is our sleeve. I inserted elastic to the down part of the sleeve, and this is what we have. You see? So I'm going to wear this on the mannequin so that we can see the final outcome of this beautiful gown. I hope you learned something from this video and you enjoyed watching it. If you did, please like this video, share this video with your friends, and do not forget to subscribe to my channel. Please, subscription is very free, so subscribing to my channel is just showing support and telling the algorithm that you enjoyed watching this video. Thank you so much for watching. See you in my next one. Bye.